Mary Stuart was born into a life of royal privilege on December 8, 1542, but her path was marked by relentless tragedy, political chaos and religious conflict from the very start. As the only surviving legitimate child of King James V of Scotland, she took her place on the Scottish throne a mere 6 days after her birth. When her father died unexpectedly, her tumultuous childhood was spent torn between Scotland and France, the young queen, essentially a pawn caught in the midst of the vicious, seesawing power struggle between the nations of Protestant Scotland, Catholic France, and England. At the tender age of just 15 years old, the precocious Mary was married off to the eldest son of King Henry II of France, the sickly Dauphin Francis, in an effort to cement the long-standing alliance between the two Catholic nations. However, this political union arranged for her proved tragically short-lived. In December 1560, upon the death of her young husband, who had reigned as King Francis II for just 1 year, the 18-year-old widow Mary was forced to return to Scotland to finally assume her role as its queen. Having been raised among the opulence and relative religious tolerance of the French court since the age of 5, she struggled mightily to adjust to the harsh Scottish climate, austerity and most pressingly, the Protestant Reformation that had swept her homeland. The newly reigning Catholic queen's tenuous position was further undermined and threatened by the powerful, deeply suspicious Scottish Presbyterian nobles who viewed her faith as an abhorrence and threat to their hardline Protestant beliefs. They wished to permanently break the yoke of the Church of Rome and Catholic Church's influence over Scotland. Mary also faced the ever-present, looming shadow of her first cousin once removed, the young but formidable Queen Elizabeth I of England, the English Queen, herself a practicing Protestant who had re-established the Church of England, saw Mary not only as a rival, but as a dangerous Catholic claimant with plausible ambitions to one day attempt to take the English throne. For her part, the proud Mary Stuart steadfastly refused to ratify the Treaty of Edinburgh, which would have legally recognized Elizabeth as the legitimate Queen of England. This set the stage for decades of suspicion, subterfuge and hostility between the two queens. When the 23-year-old Mary took the ill-advised step of marrying her first cousin, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, in 1565, against the wishes of her cousin, Elizabeth and the Scottish nobles, it set into disastrous motion a chain of events that would ultimately precipitate her downfall. The vain, arrogant and unstable Darnley's constant disrespect and sense of entitlement as King of Scots caused immediate and irreparable ruptures in their marriage, exacerbated by widespread rumors of Mary's infidelity with her private advisors and court favorites like David Rizzio. The brutal assassination of Darnley by strangulation and explosives in 1567, likely orchestrated by noblemen loyal to the increasingly isolated Mary, prompted outrage across Scotland and saw the Queen implicated as a possible conspirator in the murder of her husband. Faced with an army of rebellion led by Scottish nobles, she was forced to abdicate the Scottish throne in favor of her infant son by Darnley James VI, and flee her beloved homeland, seeking protection and the promise of an ally in her cousin Elizabeth's England. However, Mary's time in protective custody and cautious imprisonment in England at the hands of her cousin would span a staggering 19 long years, as she constantly faced accusations of orchestrating plots, schemes and rebellions aimed at her own installation on the English throne. In defiance of Elizabeth's rule, Mary made several daring but failed attempts to escape captivity during this time, adding to her reputation as an uncompromising sovereign, unwilling to relinquish her sympathies and desires for Catholic supremacy in Scotland. Finally, in 1586 at the age of 44, Mary was arrested and put on trial, convicted in a controversially biased proceeding of high treason against Elizabeth for her part in the infamous Babington plot, a plan to assassinate the English Queen and depose her orchestrated by Catholic sympathizers, denied anything even remotely resembling a fair trial. The rightful Queen of Scots was condemned as a traitor to the English throne and beheaded in a grisly public execution at Fotheringhay Castle on February 8, 1587. Her death solidified Mary's lasting legacy and romantic portrayal as the Catholic martyr queen. The tragic, ill-fated female monarch brought low by the machinations of her cousin Elizabeth. The drama-filled life of Mary, Queen of Scots, was truly Shakespearean in its levels of treachery, scandal, doomed and ill-advised romantic entanglements, and outright armed conflict, driven by the furor of religious sectarianism between Protestants and Catholics. An intelligent and charming Renaissance monarch, blessed with immense artistic talents, Mary. An intelligent and charming Renaissance monarch blessed with immense artistic talents, Mary was ultimately brought down as much by her own naivete, romantic missteps and poor judgment in choosing partners and advisors, as by being an unfortunate pawn in the cutthroat power politics and brutal religious conflicts that defined 16th century Europe. Her tragic life and untimely demise have ensured Mary, Queen of Scots' enduring legacy as one of history's most famous, romanticized and ill-fated female monarchs.